Mulberry is a fast growing plant and the leaf contents are rich in protein, sugar and moisture. It is a perennial plant exposed to different environmental factors. It is a dicot and woody plant consisting of vegetative organs are root, stem, leaves and reproductive organs are flowers and fruits. In addition to external environmental conditions, the application of manure and methods of cultivation and management can also cause changes in the mulberry physiological and morphological characteristics. These changes always follow regular patterns, so that changes in the form can be indicators of physiological growth and leaf quality. The root, stem and the leaves are the major and fundamental organs of the plant body. Each of the organs has characteristic internal organization on the basis of which they can be easily identified. The differences in the internal structure of these organs are performing specific functions and their relationship with other plant organs. Deals with the study of internal structure of the mulberry are called mulberry anatomy. Objectives: differences between the three basic tissues are found in the plants. There are parenchyma, sclerenchyma and collenchyma cells and describe their function. To identify various structures found in slide preparations of roots, stem and leaves and state the functions of the structures. Differences between monocots and dicots in terms of base tissue arrangement of the root, shoot and leaf. Differences between the basic systematic groups of vascular plants, ferns, fern allies, gymnosperms and angiosperms. To understand the hierarchy of plant structure by learning the basic feature of the plant cells, tissues and organs. To relate the structure of particular types of cells and tissues to their functions. To compare the structural differences among different taxa of vascular plants. To interpret the basic pattern of plant growth from different kinds of meristem and to understand the relationship between primary growth and secondary growth. To appreciate the complexity of the seed plant life cycle and to understand the structure of the parts those are involved in the various stages of reproduction. To interpret some of the hypotheses explaining the phylogenetic development of certain cells, tissues and organs. The underground part of the mulberry plant is root and the above the ground part, that is branches and leaves, depends on each other for existence. A developing root system with a strong capacity for absorption will promote the luxuriant growth of the branches and leaves, which will in turn benefit the root system. How a root system grows depends on the conditions of cultivation. The root system of mulberry tree consists of the main root or tap root, lateral root and the fibrous root. The form of the mulberry root system varies with the method of propagating the seedlings. Functions: root anchors the plant in the soil, root absorbs water and mineral salts from the soil, root may store food, root form a passageway for water and dissolved substances from the root into the stem and also for the foods from the stem down into the root. The root cap: the tip of the root is covered by a cap. The outer cells of the root cap are continuously being worn away and new cells are added to their inner portion. As these cells disintegrate, they form a strong protective cover. Function: the root cap covers and protects the delicate growing tip from injury and damage as the root pushes its way throughout the soil. Growing point: this region occurs immediately behind the root cap. The meristematic region consists of meristematic tissue and is protected by the root cap. The cells are very active and divide rapidly to form new cells which differentiate later to form more specialized root tissues. The cells of this region also replace the cells rubbed up from the root cap and provide additional cells for the next region. Function. This is the region where the cells divide and where additional cells are provided for the zone of elongation. Root A region. The root A region occurs a short distance above the region of elongation. Here a large number of fine ear-like growths are formed. The root hairs arises from the epidermal tissues of the root and are called root hairs. The root hairs are short and short-lived and developed in the primary and secondary roots. A root hair consists of the following parts like a thin cell wall, a thin lining of cytoplasm which contains nucleus and a comparatively large vacuole containing cell sap. Function. The main function of the root hairs is to increase the area of absorption of the root. The mature region. The mature region is situated above the root hair region. Here the root becomes thicker and secondary or lateral roots are developed. The secondary roots in turn rebranch to form tertiary roots. Each lateral branches has its own cap, root hairs, meristematic, elongation and mature regions. The roots in this region are covered by a protective cork layer. Functions. In this region, the cells undergo differentiation into specialized cells, xylem and phloem. It also serves to anchor the plant. The region of elongation. The cells formed in the meristematic region undergo rapid growth in length. This causes the root to elongate and penetrate deeper into the soil in search for water and mineral salts. The meristematic and elongation zones are also referred to as the region of the growth. Function. In this region, the cells undergo rapid enlargement, that is, the cells undergo rapid growth in length. The portion of the root produced by primary tissue is called the primary structure. The primary structure of the root can be seen from the outer layer to the inner layer and consisting of three layers, namely epiblema, cortex and stele. Epiblema. It is located on the outermost layer of the root, consists of a layer called parenchyma cells. The outer walls of the some cells will become root hairs. Water and mineral salts solutions in the soil enter into the plant system through the thin walls of the parenchyma cells. Functions. The epidermis protects the underlying tissues of the root. The epidermal cells and the root hairs absorb water and dissolved ions. Cortex. It lies between the epidermis and the stele and consists of layers of parenchyma cells. In the outermost layer or outer cortex, the cells are arranged compactly. After the outer walls of the cells become pellamized, the epidermal cells gradually die and the cortex takes place the epidermis to protect the cells. The cells in the middle cortex are arranged loosely with a wider gap between them. The cortex innermost layer is the inner cortex and there the cells are arranged compactly. Though these cells, the water and food absorbed by the root hairs and enter into the stele. Functions. The cortex allows for the diffusion of water, mineral salts and oxygen from the root. In words, the cortex stores food serves for especially starch. The cortex also serves to transport the water and salts from the root hairs to the center of the root. The endodermis with the aid of the Casparian strips facilitates the movement of water from cortex to xylem. Stele. It is present inside the cortex, consists of pericycle, primary xylem, primary phloem and parenchyma cells. Pericycle is the outermost layer of the stele. It available to split and produce lateral roots, some cambium and pelogen. The primary xylem is located in the middle of the root. It is arranged in the form of two opposite bundles called the diarch-triarch xylem. The xylem vessels are the passages for water and mineral salt to pass through them. The primary phloem is arranged alternatively with the primary xylem. Organic matter is transported through the sieve tubes in the phloem. Functions: branch or lateral roots originate in the pericycle. The xylem transports water and dissolved substances from the roots to the stem and leaves. The xylem in the main strengthening the tissues of the root. The phloem transports organic substances such as carbohydrates from the leaves to the root. Secondary structure of the root. Above the region of root hair is considered as secondary structure of the root. It is formed by the tissues generated by the secondary meristem. The growth of the root is the result of the division and growth of the cambium and paleogenic cells, resulting in the production of new tissues. Towards the outside, the cambium gives rise to the secondary phloem, which includes the phloem parenchyma, sieve tube, companion cell, phloem fiber and lenticular. Towards the inside, the cambium gives rise to the secondary xylem, which includes the wood parenchyma, vessels and xylem fiber. The continuous division of the cambium to develop wood ray in the xylem and phloem rays. These rays are the pathways for minerals to be transported crosswise. The pelogen generates the cork layer outwards and the pelloder innerwards. These three layers together are called the periderm, which having once taken place, it replaces the epidermis and protects the root. The secondary structure of the root includes the periderm, the phloem and some other sections. Petiole. It is a junction of the leaf and branch. It is a passage for translocation of water and food. The stipule grows on the two sides of the base of the petiole. It is deciduous early. It will come off while the leaf is maturing. Inside the epidermis, there are several layers of colloidal cells are present. These tissues give structural support while still allowing for a flexibility in the petiole. Internal structure. The tissues of the petiole may easily compare with the primary tissues of the stems. Anatomy of petiole shows four regions, that is epidermis, hypodermis, ground tissues and vascular bundles. Epidermis. It is a single layer of compactly arranged barrel-shaped living cells. The outer walls of the epidermal cells are cutinized, the cuticle helping to reduce the rate of transpiration. Hypodermis. It is a multi-layered cells developed from colloidal cells are present immediately below the epidermis. It gives rise to considerable strength, flexibility and elasticity to young petioles. It having chloroplasts and take the function of photosynthesis. Due to the presence of the thick layer of the angular colloidal cells, the petiole is strong, stiff and gives strength to the mulberry plants. The stomata. Stomata are the important anatomical characteristics of the leaf which control the rate of carbon dioxide movement from air to the chlorophyll tissues within the leaf and thereby influence the rate of carbon dioxide exchange. All gaseous exchange occurs through the stomata. The leaf epidermis contains many stomata. The stomata's openings or aperture is controlled by the two guard cells. The guard cells change its shape to open and close the aperture. Surrounding the guard cells are subsidiary cells. Below the epidermis lies substomatal chamber where the parenchyma cells for an air space. Functions. The stomata are responsible for the interchange of gases for respiration and photosynthesis. The stomata allow for the loss of excess of water in the form of water vapor, which also allows for cooling. The leaf forms an important organ of the plant where it carries out physiological activities like photosynthesis, transpiration and respiration, etc. The quantity and quality of the output of mulberry leaves directly affect cocoon production. Therefore, acquaintance with the nature and characteristics of the mulberry leaf is of an importance to the selection and cultivation of mulberry varieties. The mulberry leaf consists of three parts, namely petiole, stipule and lamina or leaf blade. A transverse section of the mulberry leaf reveals the following regions. Epidermis. It is the covering tissues and differentiated into two layers, namely the upper and lower epidermis. These two epidermal layers merge at the leaf margin. Upper epidermis. It is made up of single layer of cells having wavy margin. They are arranged compactly each other without intercellular spaces. These cells lack of chloroplasts. The epidermis is externally covered by the thick layer called cuticle. Lower epidermis. It is also single layer of compactly arranged cells. The lower epidermis is discontinuous due to the presence of stomata. The stomata are present in lower epidermis, which consists of guard cells. Functions of epidermis. The cuticle prevents water loss. The epidermis protects the internal tissues from injury. The stomata allows for gaseous exchange for photosynthesis and respiration. Since the epidermis is translucent, it allows light to reach the mesophyll tissue for photosynthesis. Mesophyll. It is the ground tissues of the leaf which occurs between two epidermal layers. It is differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. The palisade tissue is located just below the upper epidermis. The palisade cells are columnar and arranged in 2 or 3 layers with their long axis at right angles to the upper surface. They are more or less compactly arranged without intercellular space between the cells. The cells containing a large quantity of chloroplasts which are arranged closely to the wall. Palisade parenchyma is the chief photosynthetic tissues of the leaf. The spongy parenchyma consists of irregular cells that are loosely arranged with large intercellular spaces between cells. The cells contain comparatively less number of chloroplasts. The intercellular space of the spongy tissue into which the stomata are opened called substomatal chambers. The vein with across the mesophyll tissue supports the leaf blade with transport of food and water. Functions of the mesophyll. The palisade cells are responsible for photosynthesis because they contain chloroplasts. The spongy mesophyll together with the intercellular airspace allow for the exchange of gases. Functions of the vascular bundles. The veins strengthen the lamina. The xylem conducts water and dissolved ions into the mesophyll tissues. The phloem conducts organic food such as glucose from the mesophyll to other parts of the plant. The stem is the aerial part of the plant body. The stem bears leaves, branches, fruits and flowers. Its internal structure becomes complex. Internal structure of a mulberry stem can be studied by a thin transverse section of the young stem. It reveals the following feature from periphery to center. Epidermis. It is the outermost layer of the stem. The cells are compactly arranged and tangentially flattened. The outer surface of the epidermal cells are thickened and covered over by a wax layer called cuticle. At some places, the epidermis contains minute pores called stomata. These are several unbranched multicellular hairs or trichomes on its surface. It has following functions are: prevention of entry of harmful organism, reduction in surface transpiration due to the presence of cuticle, protection against sudden changes in the temperature. The epidermis protects the underlying tissues. The cuticle prevents the desiccation of inner tissues and thus prevents water loss. The stomata allows gaseous exchange for the purpose of respiration and photosynthesis. Hypodermis. It lies below the epidermis and consists of 4 to 5 layers of collenchyma cells. The cells possess thickening of pectin on the walls surrounding the intercellular spaces and contain chloroplast. The hypodermis provides mechanical strength and flexibility to the stem. Due to the presence of chloroplasts, it also participates in photosynthesis. Cortex. It is the median portion lies between the epidermis and the stele. It consists of multiple layers of parenchyma cells. The cells are generally rounded or angular and have intercellular space. In green stems, outer few layers of cortex may contain chloroplasts and thus contribute towards the photosynthesis. The main function of cortex is to store food. In cortex, a large number of milk tubes or latex vessels are found distributed. These milk tubes contain a fluid called milk sap. The milk sap is composed of gum resin and is acidic and sticky in nature. In other words, the milk sap plays an important role in the treating the plants when injured as well as preventing the penetration by bacteria and other organisms. Functions of the collenchyma. These tissues serve to strengthen the young stem. The chloroplasts are responsible for the synthesis of organic food during photosynthesis. Functions of the parenchyma. The synthesized organic food is stored here. The intercellular air spaces are responsible for gaseous exchange. It forms the innermost layer of the cortex. This is wavy layer of 1 cell thickness consists of barrel-shaped parenchymatous cells without intercellular spaces. The endodermis is also called starch sheath as it contains a large number of abundant starch grains. The cells of this tissue store starch. It allows solution to pass from the vascular bundles to the cortex pericycle. It forms the outermost layer of the stele situated just below the endodermis. It is multi-layered and consists of alternate patches of sclerenchyma and parenchyma cells. Sclerenchyma patches are present just above the vascular bundles in the form of prominent bundle cap. The parenchymatous patches lying in the region of primary medullary rays. Function. It strengthens the stem. It provides protection for the vascular bundles. These are arranged in the form of ring. Each vascular bundle is wedge-shaped, conjoined, collateral, ender and open. Phloem lies towards the outer region. It consists of sieve tubes, companion cell and phloem parenchyma cells. Cambium lies between the groups of phloenchyma and xylem. It is made up of 2 to 3 layers of thin walled cells which appear rectangular shape in transverse section. These cells have the capacity to multiply whereby new cells are formed and allow the growth of the cells in the phloem on the outer wall and the cells of xylem on the inner part. Xylem forms the inner part of the vascular bundle. It consists of vessels, tracheids, fiber and xylem parenchyma cells. Functions. The xylem provides a passage for water and dissolved ions from the root system to the leaves. The xylem also strengthens and supports the stem. The phloem transfers synthesized organic food from the leaves to the other parts of the plant. The cambium divides to produce new xylem and phloem cells, making secondary thickening possible. Medullary rays. These are stripes of parenchyma cells occur in the region between two vascular bundles. These rays connected the pith with pericycle and cortex. Medullary rays help in the radial conduction of food and water, minerals and gases from pith to the cortex and vice versa. Pith. It is present at the center of the stem. It is in the form of parenchymatous cells. Later these cells die. There are bundles of fibers which turn from the pith across the xylem and phloem reach the cortex. These are called pith rays or medullary rays with conspicuous intercellular spaces serve for transporting water and nutrients. Pith helps in the storage of food function. The cells of the pith store water and starch. They allow for the exchange of gases through the intercellular air spaces. The medullary rays transferred substances from the xylem and phloem to the inner and outer parts of the stem.